Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really crucial in recovery, the sponsorship relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's often, the bedrock of staying sober, like a map, maybe, or a lifeline,
Absolutely essential for many.
but it involves people,
Two people.
right?
Yeah.
Imperfect ones. So it's not always smooth sailing. It can run into some serious friction.
Oh, definitely. Walls get hit. Ego, control, fear, they all come up.
Yeah. So our topic is a really honest look at when sponsorship goes wrong. We want to see what the core sources say about handling
Well,
those inevitable bumps.
that's exactly because when you dig into the literature, the traditions, the stories, these friction points, they're not really exceptions. They're kind of baked into the process.
Baked in, how so?
Well, they're really about learning healthy boundaries, aren't they? And managing expectations, dealing with being human. Relapse happens, egos get inflated, both sides.
Oh.
So our mission today is to explore what happens when that relationship hits these pressure points.
Ah.
We want to pull out the principles, self-inventory, good boundaries, real acceptance. That's relational recovery.
Extracting principles for navigating this really personal, sometimes messy relationship.
Precisely. How do we handle the complexity?
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. The ideal foundation. What makes this relationship kick off so fast? Where does that unique trust come from?
It starts with that connection, right? That immediate, almost gut-level understanding between people who share the same core problem. Outsiders, well, they just can't get it in the same way. And the sources really point this out. It's kind of amazing, the speed of trust.
Yeah.
Think about it. Normally, trust builds slow. You need history, proof, whatever. But here, the texts say an ex-problem drinker who has found this solution can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours.
A few hours, that's stunning. Especially when you think this newcomer might have spent years burning bridges.
Yeah.
Right? Breaking trust with family, friends, bosses.
Exactly. Pushing away doctors, therapists, clergy, people who really tried to help. Decades sometimes.
And then they sit down with basically a stranger.
Yeah.
Who just happens to share this one specific struggle.
Uh-huh.
And boom, the walls come down. Why? What is it about that shared thing that cuts through all the usual defenses?
It's authenticity, I think. The shared knowledge of hitting that point of absolute powerlessness over alcohol, it validates the messenger instantly.
Okay.
All the usual stuff, pride, shame, trying to intellectualize it away, it just dissolves. Because the sponsor isn't talking theory from a book or looking down from some pedestal.
They've lived it.
They've lived it. They found a way out of the same deadly trap. It's like a secret handshake,
Right.
Based on survival.
Gotcha.
And that immediate trust, this is crucial. It shifts where the power comes from. It's not this like top-down thing, therapist-patient style. It's shared.
Shared power. So
Yeah.
the spiritual side of it, that power must be relational too, not just in the sponsor.
Exactly. It's generated between them in that space they create. This leads to a really different way of seeing spiritual help. There's that great insight from Ruth suggesting that God is immersed in and generated by all of us.
When immersed.
Yeah. So the strength they rely on, it's only power because it's shared. It's not like the sponsor has a private stash they dole out. It's everywhere in the connection.
That feels really important for keeping the sponsor's ego in check. If the power is co-created, ours, not yours,
Right.
then the sponsor can't really take credit for the good stuff, can they? It stops them becoming some kind of guru demanding followers.
Absolutely. It frames the whole thing as a partnership, but this shared foundation, it gets tested almost immediately. Big time. When the sponsee gets to step 5.
Step 5. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
Yeah.
Maximum vulnerability time.
Totally. This is where the sponsee is holding up. Well, everything. All the wreckage. Spiritual, moral, emotional. And they're terrified. What will the sponsor think?
Yeah, the sources describe that fear vividly. Being consumed with fear, convinced that you'll be humiliated and rejected, just utterly exposed.
It's the ego screaming, right? Fighting for survival. Terrified of being seen as fundamentally broken, unworthy.
Because they've spent years building walls.
Yeah.
Denial. Justifications.
Exactly. Anything to avoid this level of raw honesty. The biggest fear is confirming that inner suspicion. I'm uniquely, hopelessly defective.
So the power of step 5 isn't just saying the words.
No, not just the confession. It's being truly seen, warts and all, and not being judged. For maybe the first time ever.
So the goal isn't punishment, it's objective acceptance. seeing yourself clearly.
Precisely. When a sponsor hears that whole messy story, the resentments, the fears, the harms done, and just accepts the person sitting there,
Wow.
then the sponsee starts to see themselves differently, objectively and without judgment. It heals that damaged self-esteem, not by flattery, but just by acceptance. They learn, through the sponsor's eyes, that their flaws aren't some unique curse. They're part of the disease, part of being human.
And there's that amazing story, right, that illustrates this perfectly.
Yeah.
The sponsee is reading their inventory, just dying of shame over certain things.
Yeah. Things they thought were so uniquely awful about them. Petty, dishonest, whatever. Mortified.
Then the sponsor starts laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not laughing at them. It's a laugh of recognition.
Okay.
Because the sponsor heard it all before, heard themselves, basically. The sponsor says, I'm laughing because 5 years ago I said the exact same things to my sponsor, almost word for word.
Whoa.
Total game changer, right? All those specific defects the sponsee was agonizing over, the pride, the control issues, the self-pity, turns out they're just standard issue for this spiritual illness.
So the shame just vanishes because the isolation does.
Exactly. Going from, I am uniquely awful and alone, to, oh, I'm just like everyone else here struggling with the same human stuff. That's incredibly powerful. It seals that bond of trust.
So that shared vulnerability, that's the strength. But it sounds like it's also the weak spot, right? If people aren't careful.
That's the pivot. That's where things can go wrong. Because that shared power can easily become a power struggle.
Yeah, once you get past the initial crisis, early sobriety, the intensity, the first few steps, then the long-term danger creeps in. And it's usually about control.
The desire to manage everything, people, situations.
It's classic untreated alcoholic personality,
Really?
right? Doesn't matter if they're drinking or sober, that urge to control is strong.
And it's not just the sponsee struggling with this or the sponsor. It's in the whole ecosystem around alcoholism, isn't it? Like in Al-Anon for families.
Absolutely. What Al-Anon figured out is so relevant here that well-meaning helping can actually be controlling, and it backfires. It stops the other person's recovery.
How so?
Well, think about it. If someone, family member, sponsor, whoever, keeps shielding the alcoholic from the fallout,
Yeah.
Covering bad checks, calling in sick to work for them, making excuses,
It feels like helping, like compassion, but it's actually enabling the disease. It's a form of control. You're preventing them from hitting their bottom, from feeling the full weight of the consequences.
so they never get that motivation to actually want to change.
Exactly. They don't have to. So the crucial thing for the helper, sponsor, family, whoever, is to shift focus radically. Focus inward
On their own health.
on their own health,
Yeah.
their own program, their own serenity. Set that boundary. The sources say when the listener focuses on their own health, they give others the freedom to consider their own recovery.
Stop managing their sobriety. Manage your serenity.
That's the heart of it. But man, it's hard, especially for a sponsor, because that helper role, it feeds right into the ego. The grandiose side of the alcoholic personality loves being the helper.
Ah, the sponsor's ego trap. Playing God.
Bingo. This is where the principles can really clash with the personality. Being of service is great, but it's fertile ground for ego inflation.
How does that look?
The sponsor starts thinking they're the one doing the healing, right? Taking credit for God's handiwork in the sponsee's life. Or they just lose sight of the main goal. Carry the message, not the person.
Uh-oh.
The sources warn this leads straight to being spiritually cocky, full of pride, even aggressive. The sponsor starts confusing themselves with the message.
They forget its shared power.
Totally. They start acting like the authority figure, not just another alcoholic sharing experience. It breaks the trust that was built back in step 5. It becomes superior subordinate, not peer-to-peer.
And this isn't just theory, right? The literature points to Bill W. himself struggling with this.
Yeah, and credit to him for being honest about it. He admitted he all but ruined the whole undertaking with this sort of unconscious arrogance in the early days.
Unconscious arrogance. So what drove that?
Basically, wanting to control how other people found their spirituality. His attitude deep down was sort of dictatorial, like God, as I understood him, had to be for everybody.
My way or the highway.
Pretty much. It led to that barrier-building refrain, do as I do, believe as I do, or else. He was pushing his personality, his specific beliefs, instead of the universal spiritual principles.
That sounds like the ultimate ego trap. So how do we tell the difference between a sponsor who's just passionate about the program and one who's caught in that arrogance?
That's a great question. I think the key is where the power lies. Is the sponsor saying, here's what worked for me, let's see how these principles work for you? That's healthy.
Facilitating discovery.
Right. Or are they saying, my way is the only way, do it exactly like this? That's arrogance. That's why the 12th tradition, anonymity, is so structurally brilliant.
Reminding us principles before personalities.
Always. Keep the ego out of it. The principles matter, not the messenger's fame or opinions.
Okay, so being vigilant about ego and control,
Yeah.
that naturally leads to boundaries,
Right.
right? Healthy boundaries,
Mm.
which sounds like it might actually involve some conflict sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. If a sponsee is really growing, getting honest, they will challenge old, unhealthy ways of relating, often with the very people who used to control them or who they used to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
So setting those healthy limits, that often means working through step 9, making amends, but in a mature way.
Mature amends.
Yeah.
Not just saying sorry for everything.
No, it's not about apologizing for having new boundaries. It's about respectfully acknowledging the fear your changes might cause in others as we renew and recreate our relationships in the present.
Okay, so say I was always the family drama queen, right? Or the one everyone bailed out, and now I say, nope, not doing that anymore, staying out of the chaos. My family might freak out.
They might see it as an attack.
So the amends isn't sorry I'm healthy now.
No, it's more like, I understand my past behavior caused you pain and fear, and I get that this change feels weird or scary for you. I'm sorry for the past harm, but I have to live differently now.
Ah, I see. You're sorry for the past, but the present is the living amends, the new behavior, even if it rocks the boat.
Exactly. It's redefining the relationship based on honesty and respect, not old dysfunctional roles. That friction, when handled maturely by both sponsor and sponsee, isn't failure. It's actually a sign of real growth, real integrity.
Okay, let's shift to maybe the biggest crisis point, relapse. When a sponsee drinks again, that must put immense pressure on the sponsor and the relationship.
Huge pressure. The sponsor has to navigate the immediate chaos, but also hold on to the core understanding of the illness.
Which the sources are pretty clear about, right? It's not like a temporary setback.
Not at all. The foundational belief is stark, non-negotiable. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, period.
And if they drink after getting sober?
The sources say plainly they'll be in a short time as bad as ever. It just hammers home how serious this is, why total abstinence, no reservation of any kind, is seen as essential. That first drink is the cliff edge.
So the sponsor has to operate from that really grim reality.
They do. And historically, you see the founders responding with incredible, almost heroic effort in these crises, not just phone calls.
They were physically involved
Yeah.
in the mess.
Oh, yeah. Look at the stories about Dr. Bob and Bill W. They went to unbelievable lengths, even when they were totally swamped themselves.
Like the boomerang incident.
Exactly. Bill W. is literally juggling life and death situations. He's trying to get one guy onto a plane to go get help, and at the exact same time, he has to spring another desperate guy, Sibley, out of Bellevue and off to Highwatch Farm.
Wow. Managing one crisis while intervening in another. It's intense.
It shows the level of commitment, right? It wasn't just coffee chats. It was hands-on crisis work, dealing with hospitals, transport, everything. They did it because, as they said, we owe our lives to them, meaning the newcomers.
That sense of responsibility.
Deep responsibility. Yet, their response to relapse, while definitely compassionate, wasn't sentimental at all, especially Dr. Bob.
Yeah, he was described as not patient with people who slipped, but he didn't let them down.
That sounds tricky. How do you do both?
It's a really fine line. Not patient meant he had zero tolerance for breaking the principles, for dishonesty, for arrogance.
He'd apparently set someone down real quick if they got smart, defiant, manipulative, blaming others. He demanded they get humble again, get back to the program basics.
Tough love.
Sort of, yeah. But not letting them down meant the door wasn't slammed shut forever. He offered compassion, the chance to restart, maybe the very next day if they showed real willingness. The message was always available.
So firmness on principles, compassion for the person.
That seems to be it. The deadliness of the illness required strict adherence, but the possibility of recovery was always there.
And for the sponsee who slips, the point isn't just shame and blame, right? Either self-blame or blame from the sponsor.
Now, that's destructive. The literature suggests the takeaway from that horrible experience should be different. It should redouble your conviction that total abstinence is the only way.
It's proof. Horribly proof, but proof.
Exactly. Proof that the alcoholic mind cannot safely handle alcohol. It's like a traumatic lesson that bypasses denial.
Okay, so if alcohol is the physical trigger, what's the emotional driver behind relapse?
Ugh. Now we get to the big one, resentment. The sources flat out call it the #1 offender.
Number one. Why resentment specifically?
Well, think about the alcoholic personality again.
Mm-hmm.
Often self-centered, maybe grandiose, feeling slighted, ignored, treated unfairly. These feelings fester.
Holding grudges.
Big time. Resentment is basically nursing anger, and it just poisons everything. It cuts you off from other people, from any sense of spiritual connection. It creates this mental prison of fear, regret, pain.
Like drinking poison and hoping the other guy dies.
That's the classic description. And when relationships break down, sponsorship, marriage, anything the sources say, look for the character defects, and resentment is almost always right there at the side.
Wow. So managing emotions, especially resentment, is absolutely key for staying sober.
Highest priority. And the danger isn't just personal. The sources warn that this stuff can wreck the whole group.
Resentment can kill a group.
Yeah, if there's enough anger, especially that feeling of righteous indignation between members, the unity goes, the purpose goes, get enough of it, and the group can disintegrate. It can actually die.
So personal conflicts, unresolved stuff between sponsor and sponsee, or just members, it can literally destroy the support system everyone relies on.
Exactly. Failing to practice the principles internally in relationships has real, tangible consequences for the whole fellowship.
Okay, so assuming you navigate the ego traps, the control issues, maybe even a relapse, what does long-term mature recovery look like in this context? It seems like the focus shifts inward again.
It really does. Past the initial crisis cleanup, you're building a sustainable future. And a huge part of that is making amends. But maybe the most important amends are to ourselves.
Amends to ourselves. How does that work?
It's a really powerful idea. The sources talk about recovery itself being the living amends to the self.
The act of getting sober is the amends.
Getting sober, staying sober, working the steps consistently, giving yourself that chance to live differently. That's how you repair the damage. All the harm done over years to your self-worth, your body, your mind, your spirit.
It's like the ultimate act of self-care, self-respect. Not just stopping the bleeding, but actually healing the wounds.
Exactly. Reconstructing a worthwhile life. And that reconstruction day to day isn't just about not doing the bad stuff. It's about actively doing the good stuff, living spiritually.
Which isn't about floating on a cloud, right? It's practical.
Very practical. It's the daily application of principles, mainly through steps 10, 11, and 12. This maintenance phase, that's the real test of whether the sponsorship worked, in a way.
And step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. The sources call that the acid test.
Yeah. The big question becomes, can we stay sober, keep an emotional balance, and live to good purpose under all conditions? That sounds like real adulthood, doesn't it?
It really does. Emotional balance under pressure.
That's the goal. And step 10 is the tool. Spotting emotional disturbances quickly and, crucially, looking for the cause inside yourself, not just blaming people or situations.
So if I'm getting really annoyed with my sponsor or my partner or whatever, instead of just stewing about how annoying they are, the inventory prompts me to ask, okay, what's going on in me? What button is being pushed?
Exactly. What's the fear underneath? What's the resentment? Is it my need for control flaring up? My fear of criticism? My expectation that wasn't met?
The sources even say pain becomes a friend. That sounds counterintuitive.
Well, emotional pain, distress.
Yeah.
It's a signal, right? Just like physical pain tells you something's wrong with your body, emotional pain tells you something's out of balance spiritually or emotionally. It's a prompt to look within.
Okay, I get that. It forces self-examination.
Relentless self-examination, ideally. Peeling back those layers of unconscious stuff that used to run the show.
And this disciplined focus inward, work in the steps daily.
Yeah.
Eventually, this leads to the sponsee not needing the sponsor in the same way, right? Independence.
That's the ultimate goal. And honestly, this is often where the sponsor's ego faces its biggest test. Letting go.
Because the highest form of success for the sponsor is the sponsee doesn't need them so intensely anymore.
Counterintuitive, isn't it? But yes, the sponsor's deepest satisfaction, paradoxically, comes when the sponsee becomes self-sufficient, grounded in their own connection to the principles and their higher power.
Wow. That requires real humility.
It's profound. The sources use this amazing phrase, spiritual calculus.
Spiritual calculus.
Yeah, it's about giving without any demand for a return. Completely selfless service.
Give me an example.
Okay, picture a sponsor whose prospect, maybe someone they poured a lot of energy into, decides to work with someone else or find sobriety through a slightly different path. The sponsor might feel a sting of rejection naturally.
Sure. The ego wants to be needed, wants the credit.
Right. But the sponsor, operating on spiritual calculus, feels that sting, acknowledges it maybe, but then genuinely rejoices that his one-time prospect is sober and happy.
Regardless of who gets the credit.
Regardless, the reward isn't gratitude or continued dependence. The reward is simply that another person found recovery. Full stop.
That's radically different from how the world usually works.
Totally. If the sponsor felt bitter or frustrated or rejected when the sponsee grew up and moved on, it means their ego was still tangled up in it. True success is when the sponsor can genuinely, peacefully turn to the next case, the next newcomer.
Without feeling like they lost something.
Exactly. Because the reward was in the act of service itself, carrying the message. The goal is to launch the sponsee to help them become mature, self-supporting, able to pass it on themselves.
So looking at when sponsorship goes wrong actually shows us exactly what right looks like. Honoring boundaries, checking egos, aiming for maturity, and ultimately letting go.
You got it. All the challenges we talked about, the control issues, the ego stuff, dealing with relapse, it really all boils down to that fundamental human tension, doesn't it? Ego versus humility.
Self-absorption and control versus acceptance and service.
Yeah. And when recovery relationships hit the rocks, it's almost always because someone, or maybe both people, slipped back into that old, ingrained self-centeredness.
So for you listening,
Mhm.
whether you're in recovery yourself or maybe just grappling with control in your own life, what's the big takeaway here? It seems to come back to this idea of dependence.
I think that's the deepest insight from all this material. The core problem for the alcoholic, and maybe for anyone really stuck in control patterns, isn't that we are dependent. We all are, right? On air, water, food, each other.
Dependence is just part of being human.
It's inherent. The problem is the distortion of dependence. Trying to be God, trying to be totally self-reliant, which ironically leads to a desperate dependence on something destructive, either your own flawed, ego-driven will or substance.
So if we can't escape dependence,
And the only real choice we have is what we depend on. And the solution, the heart of recovery, the essence of healthy sponsorship, it's that conscious, mature shift, moving away from depending on the shaky, demanding self.
towards depending on a power greater than yourself, whatever that looks like for you.
Exactly. That shift is freedom, true spiritual freedom.